Thanks to the folks who led the way. Thanks to the folks, let us thank them every day.
Today's show is dedicated to Bartolome de las Casas. Bartolome was a Dominican missionary. The most important thing that he contributed to our evolution is his observation that the Europeans were abusing the indigenous people of America and that their violence against them was just basically unforgivable. Some people might say, what's the big deal? This is the right thing to be speaking out against. The thing is that this was in the early 1500s, and there weren't many people that were speaking up for the Native Americans. So I give Bartolome a lot of credit, and later on he spent his whole life fighting for this cause, and he didn't change a lot, but he did get some things changed. Now a lot of times in people's lives they have parts that, I wish I hadn't done that. Well, after Bartolome got out of the military, what they would do, the Spanish government, was give the retired soldiers land, and in this case, serfs, or indigenous slaves, actually. And he had a plantation for a while with some of these people, forced labor on his property. He came to realize that it was really unforgivable what they were doing to the Native Americans. During this time, he became a missionary, and he actually started to speak up for the rights of indigenous people here, and actually ended up going to King Charles I, who later became the Holy Roman Empire's Emperor, Charles V. The most important thing is that he was a very outspoken critic of the Spanish colonial government, and this was around 1515, so there weren't many people around him that agreed with him. He spoke out the most strongly about abolishing the indigenous slavery of the Native Americans. He tried to bring about some big plans, but they weren't too successful because there weren't many people that were supporting some of the ideas he had about the reformation of some of these policies. In his later years, he wrote some very impactful pamphlets that probably played into the history of later on abolishing slavery. I think sometimes, even though you have something in view that you can get to, that's something you're working towards, you can have some pretty big setbacks. As long as you can keep that end goal in view, you can feel good about the things you're working on now. Well, the violence that Bartolome fought against was just so atrocious. They would dismember the Native Americans, burn them at the stake, rape their women. It was something that he just couldn't contend with. And he spent his whole life then fighting such abuse. I'm going to share a little bit with you something that he tried to accomplish that wasn't quite successful, but he made his efforts to try something really different in the Americas. He was very persistent, and he was able to persuade King Charles I of Spain to accept the La Casa project of founding towns of free Indian communities of both Spaniards and Indians, who he hoped jointly could create a new civilization in America. Unfortunately, the experiment failed for a number of reasons, but through his efforts, he later became an influential figure in the Council of the Indies when he returned to Spain. When he was back in Spain, he wrote a pamphlet entitled A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies, which he gave to King Charles I, and then he passed several new laws to benefit the Indian serfs. So he did end up getting something accomplished. It wasn't anything near to what he had hoped to accomplish, but it was these step-by-steps, these individual people that led the way, which contributed to eventually correcting some of these great injustices to the Native Americans, and later probably contributed to the complete abolishing of slavery in the Americas.
Thanks to the folks who led the way. Thanks to the folks, let us thank them every day.